Pali Coast is one of the best things to do on the island of Kauai. From iconic Jurassic Park mountain ridges to jungle and ocean views, the Na Pali Coast needs to be at the top of your Kauai bucket list. However, it is not as easy to see as you might think. Here's everything you need to know about visiting the Na Pali Coast in Kauai. So first of all, how do you see the Na Pali Coast? Well, the best ways to see the Na Pali Coast are by helicopter, boat, and by foot. Although you can get a small peek of the Na Pali Coast by car at Kalalau Lookout, which we'll discuss later, the Na Pali Coast is truly only accessible by helicopter, boat, or hiking. The best time to visit the Na Pali Coast is definitely in the morning because you'll have the best chance at cloudless, clear skies and good views of the coast, of the valley, of the mountain, all views that you want to see, regardless of if you're traveling by foot, air, or boat. When there are clouds on the Na Pali Coast, the clouds often cover the entire mountain valleys, making the views near impossible to see. If you have partly sunny skies and still get fogged out, and if you have the option to wait out the clouds, like you won't have the option to wait out the clouds if you're obviously on a helicopter or on a boat tour. But if you're hiking and you have the option, I highly recommend waiting 20 to 30 minutes for the clouds to pass so that you can see that view. My husband and I actually ended up hiking the Pihea Vista trail twice during our trip to see the Kalalau Valley and the iconic views of the Na Pali Coast, because the first time we did it, it was cloudy the whole day, like everywhere on the island, and we were definitely not going to see it that day. It was completely foggy. The clouds were hanging on the mountain that we were hiking through. It was foggy. So that was our first experience with the Pihea Vista Trail, which is very similar to the Kalalau Trail, and it's right next to the Kalalau Lookout, which I'll talk about later. So because we were fogged out the first time, we decided to try again and hike the same hike twice to see if we could see it with clear skies and get a view of the Na Pali Coast, and we were rewarded. After waiting, we did have to do the hike twice, and we also waited about 20 to 30 minutes for the clouds to pass, because even though it was clear skies up above and sunny overhead, there were clouds in the valley still blocking our view. So we waited about 25-ish minutes for the clouds to pass, and we ended up getting to see the Na Pali Coast that way. So definitely don't be discouraged if you get fogged out. If you have time, try to wait it out and you might just get a glimpse of the Na Pali Coast that way. But all that to say, the best time to visit the Na Pali Coast is in the morning. Both of our hike attempts were in the afternoon, and our boat tour and helicopter tour, which I'll discuss later, were both in the morning, and we had perfectly clear views of the Na Pali Coast on both of those tours that were in the morning. So definitely go in the morning, and obviously check the weather before you go. Now let's dive into actually how to visit and see the Na Pali Coast, because like I said earlier, you have to hike, take a boat, or take a helicopter to get to the Na Pali Coast. You cannot just get there by car. So let's start with hiking. How do you hike to the Na Pali Coast? The most famous way to hike the Na Pali Coast is on the Kalalau Trail. However, my favorite way to hike the Na Pali Coast is on the Pihea Vista Trail. First, most people have heard of the notorious Kalalau Trail. The Kalalau Trail will run you a whopping 19.8 miles and 12 and a half hours of hiking, as well as over 6,500 of elevation gain. Given these stats, there's no surprise that this trail gets a difficult rating. It is a hard hike, so if you are not an avid hiker, I would not recommend trying the Kalalau Trail. In fact, many hikers will even take this trail as an overnight hike and backpack it. On the contrary, my preferred way to hike the Na Pali Coast is on the Pihea Vista Trail. Believe it or not, there's a much easier and quicker way to hike the Na Pali Coast. There's a hidden gem trail called the Pihea Vista Trail on the Na Pali Coast of Kauai, and the views here do not disappoint. You get very similar views to the Kalalau Trail. Instead of being in the Kalalau Valley, you are actually seeing views of the Kalalau Valley, but you get these views in a fraction of the time and elevation gain. Pihea Vista Trail will cost you just 4.4 miles or less of hiking and a mere 715 feet of elevation gain maximum, making it an easy to moderate hike. I explained how to find the Pihea Vista Trail in my top 10 things to do in Kauai video, so if you want to learn more about the Pihea Vista Trail, definitely check that video out next. Okay, so now maybe you're not a hiker and you're wondering, how the heck do I see the Na Pali Coast without hiking? If you're not a hiker, don't worry. There are a few different ways that you can still see the Na Pali Coast without having to take a hike. To see the Na Pali Coast without hiking, you can either A, take a boat tour B, take a helicopter tour, or C, drive to Kalalau Lookout in Kokee State Park. The easiest way to see the Na Pali Coast without hiking is to drive to Kokee State Park's Kalalau Valley Lookout, but you only get a small look at the coast. The most rewarding ways to see the Na Pali Coast without hiking are, without a doubt, a helicopter or a boat tour. So let's talk about the helicopter tours first. The best way to see the Na Pali Coast without hiking, or any physical activity for that matter, is by helicopter. In fact, much of the coast is only accessible by helicopter. Na Pali Coast helicopter tours are definitely expensive, but so worth it. If you fly all the way to Hawaii and are staying in Kauai, you can't skip taking a helicopter tour over the Na Pali Coast. Blue Hawaiian Helicopters hosted us for our helicopter tour, and they had their tours down to a T. Everything was super professional, just like seamless, from the safety briefing to the check-in process, not to mention the actual flight. If you have any flight anxiety or are nervous about taking a helicopter ride at all, I highly recommend Blue Hawaiian Helicopters. Next, the second way to see the Na Pali Coast without hiking is via boat tour. In general, there are two types of boat tours that you can take. You can either take a Zodiac boat tour, which is what we did, or you can take a catamaran boat tour. Our whole group agreed that the Zodiac boat tour was one of the highlights of our entire year. We took the Na Pali Coast morning adventure raft tour with Blue Ocean Adventures and loved every minute. Although I will admit that this tour is not for the faint of heart. Our hands and our rear ends were super sore from holding onto the ropes so tight, in hopes that we wouldn't get launched out of the boat whenever we hit a wave. But it was so fun. We got to see dozens of dolphins, dozens of turtles, we got to snorkel, we got fun Hawaiian snacks. We got to, of course, see the iconic Na Pali Coast, which was amazing to see by boat. If you are adventurous, I highly recommend taking the Zodiac boat tour. If you're not so keen on the adventure and wild ride type of boat ride, then you also could take a more laid back and relaxed catamaran boat tour to the Na Pali Coast. The Na Pali Coast boat tours usually range from 3 to 6 hours long, including check-ins, so plan your boat tour to take at least half a day. Our tour included a round-trip boat ride to and from the Na Pali Coast, as well as, like I mentioned, lots of wildlife sightings, snorkeling, Hawaiian snacks, a great tour guide, and more. Okay, so now the last question remains. Can you see the Na Pali Coast by car? And the answer is not really, but kind of. Unfortunately, the Na Pali Coast is not accessible by car, only by foot, helicopter, and boat. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't see the iconic Kalalau Valley on the Na Pali Coast with just taking a car. To get a very small glimpse of the Na Pali Coast from afar by car, all you have to do is take your car to the Kalalau Valley Lookout and walk from the parking lot to the lookout. It's like maybe a 2-minute walk on pavement. So it's literally just like park and lookout. Really accessible and easy to find. You will have to pay to enter the state park and to park at the parking lot, but the views are totally worth it. You definitely don't want to miss it, especially if this is your only opportunity to see the Na Pali Coast while you're in Kauai. And just so you know, there are picnic tables and restrooms at the lookout too. And there you have it. Now you know everything you need to know about visiting the Na Pali Coast. Like I said, the Na Pali Coast is hands down the best thing to do in Kauai, Hawaii, and is 100% worth visiting. Although it is somewhat harder to access than other coastlines, the seclusion and careful protection of the Na Pali Coast makes it all the more beautiful, exotic, and worthwhile. I hope this video was helpful, and I am so excited for you to see the Na Pali Coast for yourself. It is hands down one of my top views that I've ever seen in the United States. So I'm really excited for you to see it too. And if you're wondering about any of the other best things to do in Kauai, definitely check out my video on just that, the top 10 things to do in Kauai, Hawaii. Other than that, I will see you in next week's video. So for now, ciao.